Hi, I'm Johnny, and this is Off the Beaten Trail, and today I'm taking you to the Vicksburg Military Park located in Warren County, Mississippi. So this video is actually going to be very long. I have two parts for it. The Vicksburg Military Park was not an area that I originally intended to film. I was going to go to the area just to check out a waterfall. However, somebody told me that that waterfall is off limits, and if I was to film the waterfall, I would be liable for everybody being able to injure themselves by trying to get down to it. So I decided that I would go ahead and film the Vicksburg Military Park anyway, and I'm very glad that I did because it is well worth it. Going just for this waterfall would have been a shame to not visit this park. Prior to visiting the Vicksburg Military Park, I had no knowledge about what it was or what I was going to be filming here. I just knew that Mississippi had a waterfall in the National Waterfall Database that existed in the park, and I was curious to see if I could check it out. But when coming here, I had already been overwhelmed by the history I was experiencing on the Natchez Trace Parkway and driving through the rural areas of Mississippi from the Natchez Trace and Natchez the city. And as I came to Vicksburg, I just became overwhelmed by this history. A lot of the other historical parks commemorating or talking about the Civil War have nothing on this park. It is just insane, and I am very happy to be covering it. So the Vicksburg Military Park is a park in Vicksburg, Mississippi that was created to commemorate the Battle of Vicksburg in the Civil War. I am primarily here to show you the monuments and express to you the emotions and what I experienced when I was visiting the park. Before I go ahead and give you my own details and experiences about the park, I'm going to go ahead and give you some important information that you should know before arrival. So the park is open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and the park is a drive-through park. You can also have the option of biking through the park or walking through it. The park does allow for you to walk with your pets, but no pets are allowed to enter in any of the monuments. Some of the monuments do have stairs, but other than that, the park is handicap accessible simply because it's very easy to drive through the park, and the park is a great area to have a family picnic. There's plenty of places to stop and have a picnic with everyone in the family. It's a really great place in general to spend a great portion of the day exploring and having a good time. However, when you are at this park, you are going to spend a lot of time here. The park takes about 20 minutes at least to drive from one end to the other without stopping throughout any of the monuments. So make sure to prepare and have plenty of time with your family at the park. The park is very big and very spread out. It only has 2 bathrooms. One in the entrance where you pay to enter the park, and the other in the museum where they have a monument of one of the boats that was featured to travel up the Mississippi River, and they have it on display. There's a bathroom in a little museum right to the corner of that. However, there is no bathroom in the middle of the park, so make sure to handle all of your needs before you travel throughout all of the monuments. Vicksburg Military Park is located in Warren County, Mississippi, in the city of Vicksburg. You can enter the park off of Old Highway 27 directly from I-20. Vicksburg, Mississippi is a very scenic city. It sits directly on the Mississippi River, and it has a lot of high plateaus on its banks, which give you a great view of the river itself. Vicksburg, Mississippi has a population of 22,000, and Warren County has a population of about 47,000. It's a relatively large area for the state of Mississippi, and whenever you're in the city, it doesn't seem like the population is that small. It seems like it is a city with a much larger population. Vicksburg, Mississippi is about 1 hour and 10 minutes east of Monroe, 45 minutes west of Jackson, and 2 hours and 10 minutes northwest of Hattiesburg by car. Okay, so I'm about to go ahead and talk to you about the things that I experienced at Vicksburg Military Park, and I'm going to show you the park itself. But before I do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button and subscribe to my channel so that way I can take you to a new location each week. Okay, so the first thing that I want to express about the Civil War is that my family had nothing to do with it in any way whatsoever. I am descendant of Native Americans and Europeans, but the Europeans that came over to America didn't come over until the 1900s. That would be almost 40 years after the Civil War. Most of my ancestors came over around 1900 itself, or 1910 and 1920. My ancestors, being Native American during the Civil War, would have either been on the reservations or they would have been hiding out. They would not have been taking part in it, so it's very difficult for me to convey an understanding or a sense of having played a part in the Civil War. And when I think about my ancestry and I think about America, I don't think about that time period. I think about the periods before that, the time periods when the Native Americans were the only people over here in the U.S. And I think about how they interacted with other tribes and how their tribes would have had society, and I think about what it would have been like during that time period, not during an oppressive time period for my ancestors. And when I do think about that oppressive time period, it isn't very pleasant, so I try not to think about all of the things that happened. So with that being said, most of the time I don't really think that much about the Civil War, and I have a really hard time connecting to it. But the Vicksburg Military Park really made me open up and feel something when I walked into that park, and seeing everything that it had to offer, it really gave me that connection. It really hit me. Like, you can hear something 1,001 times and not feel anything for it, and then when you let it in, it's just like, wow. And that's what the Vicksburg Military Park did when I visited. So when I came to this area, I walked into the museum, and when I entered into the museum, you have to pay. I paid, I believe, $20 to take one vehicle through the park, but the $20 does cover the museums, and it also covers the presentations that you can see. I also saw tour buses, and I'm not certain whether or not the tour buses relate to you could pay a fee and they'll take you on the tour. But one thing I did know about the tour buses is they did not leave the tour bus, so you weren't actually able to walk into the monuments and read it. So when I entered the museum, the way it worked out was you had a lot of artifacts from the Civil War. And when I had been traveling before in Rodney and Emerald Mound, I was traveling up the Natchez Trace. I wound up staying on the Natchez Trace Parkway. So when I was staying there, I wound up getting a really strong vibe. I got very strong feelings about the Civil War. And it was very emotional. It connected me with the area, and it was just like, I never felt like I had such a strong connection with something, and I wasn't related to this event directly by ancestry, but I could just feel what happened going throughout Vicksburg and Rodney and Natchez and all of the area where the Mississippi River was. I could tell that there was a lot of battles that were fought there, and I could feel the sense of what happened there. It was like the land had been scarred with the battles, and like the essence will always remain there. And I know that might be a strange thing to say, and it might just be me being a human and conveying my emotions, but it's just like there's this feeling that you get when you're going through this area, and it's this connection to all of this historical energy. So in that Vicksburg Museum, I felt very, very overwhelmed. I felt I could see all of these utensils and tools, and it wasn't just weapons, it was literally tools that they used during the time period of the Civil War. And it was just, I could see all of that, and there was information about it and letters, and I could have read it. But at the same time, I was trying to get in and get out because I wanted to give you as much content as I could, and I was just trying to brush through this area to give you what I could give you so I could get to the next area. I was already late. I was already running behind. I had started off with this trip running far behind. So when I was in this area, I wanted to stop and just be able to marvel at it, but I didn't have that time. As I walked through the museum, I walked up to this area and there was this map. And it looked like a Chinese checkerboard, but there were only two colors. And in the two colors, you had the south and the north, and it would light up. And there was a voice talking, and it was telling you what happened, what strategies the north versus the south took. It was very informative, and I wanted to stay, and I wanted to continue to learn more about what happened and how the battles were won. And it seemed like this thing could just talk for hours and hours, but it was like I sat there for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then I was like, look, I can't just stay here because I have to continue filming. If I don't finish this area, then I'm not going to be able to go to the next area on time, and I won't be able to get as much content for my viewers. Another thing that I missed out on was the presentation. There was a really cool presentation, and it was supposed to be a movie. I don't know what this movie conveyed. I don't know what it was going to tell me, but I know I wanted to stay, but it didn't start for another, 15 to 20 minutes, and I didn't have 15 to 20 minutes to spare. And then I had no idea how long this movie was going to be, and so I didn't have the ability to watch the movie. And it was really cool that just for paying for this fee for my car, if I had come with other people, we would have all been able to check this stuff out, and it's really not that expensive if you think about the amount of information that the Vicksburg Military Park is giving you. So in that building you had a bathroom and a water fountain and the museum, and that's where you pay for everything. And I wound up leaving and then going down the park. So as I'm purchasing my tickets and driving down to the area where I start to see the first few monuments, I'm thinking that this park is going to be relatively short and I'm going to be able to get in and get out because, I'm not thinking that it's as large as it is. Because obviously there are people that are walking and riding their bikes. It has to be a very decent time period for you to be able to just hurry up and get in and get out. Well, that is not the case. I do not understand how people walk this park. The day that I went, it was extremely hot. And if I had been walking, I probably would have been in that park walking for, 2 to 3 hours. And that's a long walk. I could understand, loading my animal up and, letting my animal out and walking at certain points. And that's pretty much what I did by myself. But there were people just walking this whole park with their dogs. And I'm like, you have to walk back or walk back through this whole area. And it has to be extremely long to get through this whole park. If anybody that does walk this park is out there watching this video, y'all are champs. Only on foot, so I just couldn't really imagine with the heat and not having, you would have to be prepared for that journey. But I love walking, I love running, I hike, and I just couldn't see myself doing that. Maybe running a marathon in the park in the fall, but kudos to the people that can walk this park, especially in the heat of the summer. If anybody that does walk this park is out there watching this video, y'all are champs. I give you props, I really do. So the monuments that I viewed in the park and I showed you on this video, or I'm going to show you on this video, are nothing compared to the amount of monuments that are actually in the park. I just showed you the most spectacular ones that I had to stop and get out and look at. However, I was not able to read many of the plaques. I was rushing. I was trying to get out of this area as quickly as possible and start filming another area, so I didn't get to really get a lot of the information or what they were commemorating, or what was being commemorated, or who was being talked about in the plaque. So this actually is an area that I really want to travel back to, just so that way I can read all of the information. But I went to several of these monuments, and then I went to the monument at the end of this video, and as I was at that monument, it was just breathtaking. You know, this place was so cool, and right next to this monument you have this really interesting house that was built, and you could tour inside the house, but I don't know how I would be able to purchase that. You would have to talk to the people at the front desk about that, because I did see a lot of furniture and a lot of stuff in this house, and I had read that I think that it was, you know, just a facility for the soldiers for aid. I'm not positive, I can't really remember, but I really wanted to go inside of this house and tour it a good bit before I left, but the doors are locked, and I know that they do have an open house hour, but I'm pretty sure you have to go in there with a guide. So I went to this big dome building, and it was made out of, I believe, marble. I'm not positive if it was marble or not, because I didn't have information and I didn't read the plaque. But what I do know is that I went into this building and it was overwhelming. I'm going to show you that clip, but it was just to that point to where I really connected with the war. I connected with everything that happened, and it gave me a lot of emotion to this location. And that's the beginning. That's whenever the Vicksburg Military Park first kind of just sunk in to me. sheer size of this monument is outstanding. It is so beautiful. I can't express how I'm feeling right now because I'm not used to seeing things this beautiful. When you come in here and you see the magnitude of this building and the structure and how it was created, it just gives you this sense of speechlessness that you can't really overcome. And you see all the names on the walls, it really puts things in perspective of how many people died during the Civil War fighting. This structure is something that I would expect in Washington, D.C. It's something I wouldn't expect in Mississippi. And the scenery around the park is just insane. It's just, I wouldn't expect to get views and images of places like this, of somewhere like this in Mississippi. It's so maintained. It's so clean. You can tell that people really care about this park, and you can tell that it is in great condition. When I come, I get a very strong spiritual feeling when I'm standing here. I get a strong spiritual connection to this park and to what happened here in Vicksburg. It's very special, and it's definitely not somewhere to overlook if you're coming to Mississippi. It's a very proud monument. Well, that's all for the Vicksburg Military Park today, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, share, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. If you hit that notification bell, you'll be notified every time I upload content, and I will see you next week when I give you Vicksburg Military Park Part 2.